and welcome back once again to After the Credits. Sorry it's been a little while. As I've said before, finance troubles always creep up on me. I do pretty good for a while, then it's like, hey, you've been spending way too much, you gotta relax a little bit, save up some money. Then I can get back to these things. So that's kind of the situation I've been in here recently. Still trying to squeeze out something just so there's something for you guys, and I'm trying to see a little bit more recent stuff as opposed to stuff that's been out for a while, because I've caught up on most of what I want to see. I think there's still maybe 4 or 5 more films that have come out over the last couple of weeks that I want to see, but I'm trying to get to more of the newer stuff first, and hopefully I can get to some of the older stuff within the next couple of weeks. So, the movie that we saw today was Morgan. So what did I think of Morgan? Well, I probably would have enjoyed it more if more happened in the first hour than in the last 10 minutes of the movie. Basically, the movie is about an hour and 27 minutes long, and the entire first hour is introducing Morgan, and doesn't really get to anything actually happening until like the last literally 20 minutes of the movie, and even then, once it finally happens, it gets a little predictable about where it's going to go. It gets to where there's like 3 routes that it can go, then one of those quickly falls off. There's 2 more routes it can go. One of those quickly falls off, and then once you're left with the last one, the ending's kind of easily telegraphed. Yeah, just overall, it's not that great of a film. So we start out meeting Morgan, which we end up doing for the entire next 58 minutes, and Morgan just flat out stabs a bitch in the eye. That's the opening of the movie. Nothing major there. We then find out that Morgan is a biological artificial intelligence that's being produced by some company somewhere. Because of the incident, they send in I can't remember what the people are actually called, but they come in and do like risk analysis. Like they see what's going on and they say, is this viable versus the overall outcome, and then they make a recommendation to the company, usually around the time that they come in is far too late, but occasionally they say, yeah, there's still grounds here. So they bring in one of these ladies who's basically there to observe Morgan and see if she's still viable to have the company invest money into. So she meets Morgan briefly, has very little interaction with her, more or less interacts with the rest of the staff who developed Morgan to see like how they feel about Morgan, if they feel that was this incident something that can be overcame, stuff like that. Basically, she says, well, the best course of action here is to do a psych eval of Morgan. So they bring in a person who does psych evaluations, who specializes in doing psych evaluations of 4th level AIs. Interesting that there are people that do that. They give a psych analysis to an artificial intelligence. This guy specializes in things over 4th level, which means, I guess, learning and able to kind of form cognitive ideas on their own. So he comes in, does the assessment, and right around here, you're about midway through the movie now. And I'm not even kidding. We were literally about half hour into the movie before this guy even shows up for the psych evaluation. We spend very little time with Morgan up till then. It's more with the surrounding staff and like how Morgan came to be. So this guy finally shows up, and you're thinking, okay, here's where some shit's about to go down, right? Well, maybe a little bit. You get like 25 minutes of the psych evaluation, and then there's another incident with Morgan, which was sort of provoked. So then it's like, okay, well, where do we go from here? Now they decide that Morgan's no longer a viable option, so they're going to terminate the project. Of course, Morgan ain't having that, so now everything finally happens, but we're literally 15 minutes away from the end of the movie. The whole time everything's going on, Morgan keeps talking about how one of the doctors had promised to take her to a nearby lake. She wanted to see the lake. So, of course, when Morgan gets out and escapes, where do you think she's going to go? To the lake. So they track her down to the lake, and at this point, it's her and the one doctor who promised to take her there, and Morgan shows that she trusts the doctor by giving her the one gun that Morgan has. So at first you're thinking, okay, this is going to turn into a mice and men moment. This doctor's going to Lenny this kid. And doesn't happen. Spoiler, by the way. I am going to spoil this movie because it really wasn't that good. So then the risk assessment person tracks them down to the lake as well. And everyone's like, wait for backup, let us help you. And she's like, no, you don't understand. This is what I'm paid to do. So basically she's there as a risk assessment, but she's also there to take down rogue AIs with extreme prejudice, I guess. So she has like all this military training as well. So her and Morgan have this epic battle. And right at this point, I'm like, I know where this ending is going to go. I kind of guessed it in the middle. I was like, is she? I was like, nah, they wouldn't do that. They're going to go with the Mice and Men ending. And then as it comes to the ending, I'm like, no, definitely. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what happened, but as you watch the movie, you'll probably figure it out. So, big spoiler, they take down Morgan, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. We have the wrap-up where everything's kind of explained for you, and everything's laid out. But like I said, at this point, I'd already called it, and then kind of strayed away from it, but then came back to it real quickly. I'm not going to tell you what that was, though, but you can probably figure it out. So that's Morgan. What would I give Morgan as far as a star rating? Let's say a 2. I was going to give it 2.5, but only because even though it took forever to get to anything, I wasn't really bored. Like, by the time I glanced at the clock and realized we were an hour into this, I was like, wow, this movie's almost over and nothing's happened yet. But at the same time, I wasn't bored during that 2 hours because I was kind of interested in learning about Morgan. But at the same time, the previews show it being this horror movie about this rogue AI that goes insane and starts killing everybody. So we're an hour into an hour and 27-minute film. When the hell is she going to go off and kill somebody? Yeah, once I realized we were an hour in, I was like, really? Everything's going to be in the last 20 minutes of this film? Yes, it was, unfortunately. And even then, it wasn't that climactic. So I can't quite give it a 2.5. It's subpar. It's not really even a middle of the road. It was kind of easy to see where everything was going to go. There was a couple different alternatives, but obviously if you can guess at least 3 alternatives and one of them pays out, what does that say about the movie overall? So, yeah, I'm going to stick with a 2 on Morgan. So that's it for this episode. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links to the social networks and stuff are down there in the description. And until next time, we'll see you after the credits.